Hi, hello and welcome. Maya is the name, crazy is the game. Really, that's it. You know who you are, I know who I am. Damn right, I know who I am. Okay, feel good moment, Mrs. Feel Good moment, gotta pass. Because we're going into the small town of Circleville, Ohio today. I covered this story on the pod, I'm gonna plug the link below, just the innocent, humble plug. We are all up in the small town business today, and I'm talking about Circleville, Ohio. Circleville citizens, you know what this is about. This story hasn't been covered in a long ass time, and I love it because for me it's truly the basics, the foundation for any gossip show out there. Gossip Girl, Riverdale, Jane the Virgin, all of the CW shows are based on this. Just kidding, but this for me will be the perfect opportunity to tell you how gossip works. This is why we are here. So Circleville, Ohio is famous for its pumpkin show and for this story pretty much. It has about 13,000 something inhabitants. Actually, last time I checked, this count was made in 2010 and since then they just didn't count its population, I guess. Don't know. And this story focuses on one family in particular and then a couple of other characters. Primarily it focuses on the Gillespie family. So here we are talking about Mary and Ron Gillespie, and then the other two close family characters that will be important in this story are Ron's sister Karen and her husband Paul. During the span of 6 years, between 1977 and 83, Mary Gillespie used to be a target of one such letter writer who would write 39 letters to her in particular. So other citizens of Circleville have received letters written in the similar writing, usually kind of in that tone of voice threatening to expose the family members of those families, but Mary's family has been targeted in particular. The first letter that she got accused her of having an affair with Gordon Massey, who was the superintendent at the school. Mary was a school bus driver, and this letter was just accusing her of having the affair with the superintendent in school. This letter reads, "Stay away from Massey. Don't lie when questioned about knowing him. I know where you live. I've been observing your house and know you have children. This is no joke. Please take it serious. Everyone concerned has been notified and everything will be over soon." Now she kind of just keeps this to herself. She doesn't want to ruin her marriage. She doesn't tell Macy either. But then she gets a second letter that threatens that the person knows that she is keeping this to herself and that they're going to expose her to the school, to the board, to everybody. "Gillespie, you have had 2 weeks and done nothing. Admit the truth and inform the school board. If not, I will broadcast it on CBS, posters, signs and billboards until the truth comes out." This is when she finally admits it to her husband Ron, but she says it's not true, she hasn't been having an affair, somebody's just threatening her for no reason. The two of them discuss this only with Ron's sister Karen and her husband Paul. They realize maybe the best way is to write back to the return address that they have had, to just say that they know who the person is. It's like maybe that is going to actually stop them from getting the letters again. So that kind of seemed to be working for a while, until one day in August Ron gets a call, and to this day we still don't know who this caller was. Because, and this is rule number 1, if somebody calls you, this is suspicious and you just need to storm out and go somewhere, write down details or tell the person who called you, tell them where to find you, because otherwise just everything results unsolved. So Ron doesn't do that. He gets that call, goes gets his gun and leaves the house straight away. And that day he dies in this accident where his car hits the tree. Now Sheriff Radcliffe enters the picture, because he has been called up on the accident and, well, yeah, he just rules it an accident. But there's a couple of things that stand out to the family. Apparently the gun has been fired just before Ron kicked this car or truck into a tree. And also Ron had high levels of blood alcohol in the system and he was apparently just not a heavy drinker. Also, when is he going to drink? He literally just stormed out of the house, went into a truck and then hit a tree. And now Sheriff Radcliffe is one of the target of the letter writer as well, because several residents start getting letters that Sheriff Radcliffe is covering this up. like making it seem like it's an accident when it isn't one. Now a couple of years pass and Gordon Massey ends up divorcing his wife, and both him and Mary actually own up to the affair, but they say the affair started after all of this happened, after the letters, after her husband has died, which would make for a really shitty plot. Just like, oh yeah, the letter writer, started this up. It's just like the letter writer just gave us this idea and we never knew. Moving forward to 1983, Mary is still driving her bus, doing her routes, and then this particular week, as she is doing her routes, she notices posters around her street, around the block, like literally on her bus route to school. And she notices that these posters are exposing an apparent relationship between her daughter and Gordon Massey's son. So she's freaking out, and every day that week, like getting up extra early, going around and just taking those posters down. And one of those days, as she is doing that, like she realizes that one of those posters has like a box contraption underneath it. She takes both of those things and goes back onto her bus. And as she opens the box, she realizes it is supposed to be a booby trap. So there's like a twine and then there's like a gun attached to it. And it was made in such a way that it was supposed to basically just shoot the person opening the box. Now finally the police actually has no excuse but to take this matter seriously. And they are obviously focusing on the gun. Whose gun is it? And while they're investigating this, Paul Freshour, Karen's husband, owns up that he has actually lost the gun but has never reported it lost. So the police immediately focusing on him. It's a member of the family. They just immediately look into it. They go to his house and kind of just try to investigate, I guess. They go and ask him where has it disappeared from, where has it been stolen from. He just shows them like a place in the garage, and the police is like, cool, you're arrested for the attempt of murder on Mary Gillespie. What you need to know about Sheriff Radcliffe, if you haven't figured out from how quickly he just discarded Ron Gillespie's accident, it just like immediately decided it was an accident. He is very much that kind of sheriff where, he just wants like X amount of cases closed, and he just wants to be the number person. And you can't be a number person as a police officer. It doesn't work that way. That's why I'm not a police officer, because I like, my stats to be up. So, in this case, of course, he just wants this case closed, shut. Paul is guilty in his head and he is going to prove it. So, of course, he pulls up the most ridiculous handwriting test. Of course, Paul has to have this handwriting test for like comparisons to, prove this whole motive, prove like he has been targeting Mary for 6 years, has been the letter writer. Of course, cool, great, understandable. What they make Paul do is write up these random lines, so not even like the letters or anything, just like these random lines, and write them up and then read them out loud. This is not how handwriting tests should work. In fact, it's distracting and like there's more chances that they mess this whole thing up. But Sheriff Radcliffe has his methods. He also claimed that during this chat with Paul, he confessed to him that he has been the writer of 40 letters. Of course, there's nothing on the record, but they're gonna take his word because he's a sheriff in town. Then he claims that some of those letters, because they had a whole storage room in this police unit, office, whatever, station, police station, genius. The Paul's fingerprints were on some of these letters, which most probably not true. But remember that time when Mary and Ron have shared some of these letters? So what if they have brought them to Paul and Karen's house and Paul has touched some of them? That again might be how. Of course, Paul here stands 0 chances. Also, what doesn't go into his favor is that he actually hasn't been to work that day when the booby trap was found by Mary. But then he had an alibi witness saying yeah, he was pulling sickie, but he was with me. But they never put that guy on the stand. What else doesn't go into that favor is that Karen actually divorced him and she was just out for some next level revenge. So Karen tells Mary that Paul actually confessed to her he has been the letter writer this whole time. And then Mary testifies against him as well. One odd thing that happens at trial is that they say if Paul doesn't take the stand to defend himself, they are only going to expose like 100 letters. If he does, the whole of the 1,000 letters that have been like sent out to any single citizen in Circleville at that point are going to be exposed. Which again, Paul again chooses for less letters to be exposed, but that makes you just look guilty as hell. So the jury only takes 2.5 hours to deliberate, and as we know, that means they're going to come with a guilty verdict. So Paul is sentenced to 7 to 25 years. So between 7 and 25, 7 years is when he can request parole. Paul is in prison. Everybody in his life seems to be happy about this, because they're all gunning to get Paul in prison. Great. But the letters don't stop. Not just that, but somebody's taking a proper piss because now they have a guy in prison and they're just chilling outside. So they keep writing to everybody, they keep writing to him in prison. But of course, Sheriff Radcliffe is like, no, this is a case closed. Again, completely ignoring the fact that Paul can't be the person writing it, because they're postmarked from Columbus, which is like 25 miles from Ohio, but also, 25 miles from Circleville, but also, he's in prison. Like, everything coming out and going in is vetted by the prison guards, by everybody. Not just that, but they put Paul in solitary, and the letters still keep coming. And they're like, nope, he figured out a way. How? So 7 years after serving prison sentence for something he has not done, he applies for parole and he is denied. And this is the letter that the Circleville letter writer writes to Paul then. A shower. Now, when are you going to believe you aren't getting out of there? I told you 2 years ago. When we set them up, they stay set up. Don't you listen at all? No one wants you out. No one. The joke is on you. Ha ha. Tell no one of this letter. I saw the paper. Great news. Great. The sheriff loved it. Ha ha. Do you believe it now? Do you? So finally, after this parole hearing, somebody actually gets interested in Paul's case. It was this investigative journalist, Martin Yent. So he actually comes to the police with this information that he has seen this yellow El Camino, the car, like 20 minutes before like that booby trap has been found, like around that neighborhood. And that El Camino belonged to Karen's brother. But the police again just ignores it, hush hush, it's fine, irrelevant information. So Martin Yent actually believed that there were two letter writers. One he believes... Yes?
How much olives do you need?
Just like the smallest tub or whatever.
Okay.
Or did you find the ones that have the pits? So this journalist Martin Yent actually believed there were two suspects. He believed that one of them used to work with Mary at school and like he tried to hit on her, but Mary rejected his advances. The second one he believes is Karen, just because she is the closest part in this family and because she was just really gunning for Paul to stay in prison. Nothing really still happens here though. Until Unsolved Mysteries gets involved, they don't expose anything new, but what was odd is that they received a letter from the letter writer like the night before the airing. And obviously they're not intimidated by this, they still release the same footage. But the next day they get this letter. Forget Circleville, Ohio. If you come to Ohio, you sickos will pay. The Circleville write. Now in May 1994, Paul finally gets released after serving 10.5 years for crime he did not commit. There was never proof. He has served 10.5 years and he has unfortunately died in 2012. And his name was never cleared because this is still an unsolved mystery. Now let's go on to suspects. So the guy that Martin Yent thought was the suspect, his name was David Longbury and he worked with Mary. He had actually criminal history. He has raped an 11-year-old kid, so an 11-year-old girl, while the girl's grandparents were still in the same house. He was not in prison, as you can tell, because he was still hitting on Mary in school, But yeah, they just again hushed this under the radar. I was just literally a suspect in Martin Yen's eyes, or if other people who have looked into this story, of course, it never even made it to the police radar because the police had their man, never had any other suspects. In fact, another sort of slightly more, maybe more plausible suspect was Gordon Macy's son William, because some of the letters were signed with a W. So people have immediately speculated maybe it is his son was just pissed because his dad had an affair, left his mom, then moved with married and sold that bullshit story that, they only had this affair afterwards. But again, never prosecuted, never looked into any further. Now, as I mentioned, Radcliffe was kind of shady, so of course he was never his own suspect. I don't particularly think that he was the person involved or suspect as such, but he definitely tried to really cover this shit up. So what came to light after Martin Yen took hold of this case was that there was this election for national sheriff, president, something along those lines in this town at that very moment. So, as you know, with any freaking elections, everybody wants their stats to look great. Everybody wants to have their best, the highest number of solved cases. So, of course, the sheriff was gunning to solve every single crime in this town that year. Now we get to the suspect that I kind of believe has actually been behind most of these letters, and that is Karen. Hello, yet another Karen. Why? Well, obvious reasons. She was one of the closest family members. She was the one that they confided in since the very beginning, and if you remember, when Ron and Mary have shared with Karen, what they're going to tell the person, so hey, we know who we are, she knew that they have no idea who this person is. So of course, she just pushed it, wrote other letters. So do I think she wrote every single letter in that town? Most probably not. I think the tone of voice of the most accusatory ones matches one person. It's kind of the same wording, the same ha-has, even the same bulk writing, so all of these letters that I have read out. Also, she knew she can use the fact that her husband's gone. He's gone, get him charged for murder, and then she is innocent. She is off the hook. And now, serious talk. I'm going to explain to you how the gossip works, okay? As I mentioned, this is the basis for every freaking show. Just remember Gossipville, right? Well, for it to work successfully, let's start with the hypothesis that gossip travels from outside towards inside. So in this case, it starts from outer circle of Circleville, and then it goes, police, governmental bodies, and then it focuses on this family with Ron, Mary, Karen, and Paul. In that case, it can't actually reach to that inner circle, even if it is probably multiple people, because they will be able to target a couple of people here and there within circles, but they actually can't just breach completely and do this much damage because they will not have this much information if they're I don't know, let's say on the outskirts, or there's random people in different bits and pieces of town. However, if it starts from the inner circle, then you can focus on particular people. Again, you can just reach out in those couple of tiers that are closest to you. And if you remember Gossip Girl, the easiest way to spread gossip from within is to target the closest ones to you, Reed, Mary, Ron, and Paul. And if you are a smart person, actually involve yourself as well. Otherwise, it's kind of written on your fucking forehead that it's you. But no, in this case, nobody read that on her fucking forehead. But basically, if spreading it from within, you can kind of just focus on that inner circle and then move on to one particular person, so Sheriff Radcliffe in this case, in those outer circles, and then just maybe a couple of people here and there where you are connected by, I don't know, cousins, neighbors here and there, but you don't actually have that much damaging information there because all the damage you're doing is within. Because all the damage you're doing is in that inner circle. Yes, I'm pretty sure I made my case clear here, but I would like to know what you guys think. Who do you think did it? Is it anybody mentioned in this story, or is it somebody completely random? Do you know? Circleville, Ohio, please get in touch. I would fucking love to get to the bottom of this mystery, just because unexplained, unsolved cases Just get to me. I mean, like, a man served over 10 years for this. What's all this shit? Karen, have you done it? Get in touch. But yeah, that's it. That's it for today. I'm gonna be bringing some of the cases that I cover in the podcast and then some new ones, you know, because research takes time. Like, subscribe, leave comments, all that jazz. Let's all this shit. Let's get it done. But yeah, I have nothing else to tell you, nothing else to add. So until next time, motherfuckers, bye. Bye.